mean, literally 10 to 15 different countries here. So God bless you all. We'll have a class, and afterwards, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask? Please try and sit still, everyone, okay? Because you move it.
Stuart, it's Ken here.
Yes.
Um, how did you manage to do this without Rudi after he died?
You know, very good question. Sometimes amazes me, but look, please try and sit still, everybody, okay? Because you're moving, it disrupts the whole flow of energy. Look, I had an amazing training from Rudi. It was karma. It was meant to be. When I met him, the day I met him, to the day he left, in that airplane crash where I was holding his hand and the plane hit the mountain and his soul force just passed right into me. I had an amazing training from him, years of teaching me what was real, what was not real. And it wasn't easy. I can't tell you how many times I said, what am I doing here? This is too hard. And then I knew there was nowhere else to go because I needed to learn what he had to teach. But it was that training that set in the whole foundation for the future of my life. And I remember, when I was on top of that mountain, when the plane hit the mountain, and I was told, the pilot, we all three of us lived, and the pilot told me that Rudi had passed on. And I had two thoughts. The first one was, I was, I just thanked him for allowing me to be with him the last moment of his life. No matter how tragic that was and what kind of a drama that was, he basically not only saved my life when I met him, the day I met him, he saved my life in that plane crash. He passed his soul force. And I realized, I don't have a life anymore. I simply don't have a life. That was in 1973. That's almost 50 years ago. That every time I look in the mirror, I see a living miracle. You don't walk away from something like that unless you have something important to do on the earth. And I knew I could never go back to the way I lived before. I had to be a child of God. I had to be a servant of God. Otherwise, why was I alive? And it didn't mean I didn't go through endless numbers of situations, a marriage, a child, businesses, and thousands of people I had to deal with all over the world. I was teaching. So it was the foundation that was set in those 6 years of being with Rudi. It was that airplane crash that was an incredible wake-up call to me that I have no life but in the service of higher energy. My life is a living miracle. Every moment that I'm sitting here and talking to all of you now is a living miracle. And it told me that whatever happened and whatever I had to go through, I had to keep getting stronger inside. And the only place I could get stronger was connecting my consciousness with higher energy in the universe. And I took on the responsibility. I ran an ashram in Texas for 9 years. I never wanted to be in Texas. Rudi told me you're going to go there for 3 weeks. Then he came to visit me there. And I said, Rudi, this has been a hell of it. This is like 6, 8 months later. I said, it's been a hell of a 3 weeks. And he told me, you're on your 4th day. then you understand how the earth was created in 7 days. You have to work out the cycle. So I made the commitment to work out the cycle. And what was built there was unbelievable, I mean, it was, it became like a central focal point in that town,
It's 2 o'clock.
what was built there. And I took the responsibility, and I knew I had to work very hard or I would have become like everybody else living in that town. And that was scary enough to me not to have to leave, but to do the work that I had to do in myself so I can finally be free of the situation. And it came 9 years later when I had done after I mean, you can go online and look up ashram and you'll see the house that I built there while I was there. It was unbelievable. It was like a Tibetan temple with Japanese gardens, and I had all these students living there and people and teaching in ashrams all over the United States. And it was something. But I knew I had to take that responsibility on myself. And it was taking that responsibility that made me strong enough to do what I'm doing today. Strong enough to go back to New York and say, well, if there's any place in the world where it's hard to build a meditation school, it's got to be New York City. It's got to be one of the most intense places on the planet Earth. And I said, okay, I will take this on. And within 3 or 4 years, I had 100, 150 people coming to my classes every week. And I was teaching all over Europe, in Zurich, in Berlin, in Paris, Athens, and all of this, plus running a business on top of it, I had to run because nobody supported me. I had to support myself. Where was I going to get the energy to do that? From God, from Spirit, the only place to do all of that. I certainly didn't want to do it for me because I really wasn't interested in money and that kind of success. I was interested in having a spiritual life. So all of that compounded with the incredible foundation that Rudi put in me, it really made it possible for me to do what I've done with my life. And the thing that was the most important was the commitment to have a spiritual life. That need existed in me 10 years before I met Rudi. In fact, when I was 6 years old, I used to lie in bed, and this is a true story, and I would hear the name Rudi. I'd be trying to go to sleep, and I would hear the name Rudi in my head. And Rudi. Took 19 years to meet him. So these things are not accidents. And then the important thing is, thank God that I learned that early on. You have to take advantage of what God gives you, because you never know. I mean, everybody thought Rudi was going to live to 84 years old. He died when he was 45. You have to take advantage. Get the training. Build your inner life. Don't take anything for granted, because as soon as you do, it's all over. So you ask how after he left, that's how. Commitment, work, doing this. Today I'm going to have like 60 to 70 people in meditation. That's not easy to do, for God's sake. I have to go deep enough to nurture 70 people in a day in meditation classes. But I know it makes me grow. I'm doing my service to God on the earth. That's how. And I never wanted to be a Swami, all that stuff that people did after Rudi died. It was always nonsense to me. You don't have to get into robes to be holy, You don't have to be a Swami. I could have been made a Swami if I wanted to be a Swami. Or any of those holy tags that people, those names people give themselves, I never was interested. I was interested in simply being a servant of God. That's it. And I didn't have to get into costumes to do it, you know? Does anyone else have a question? I hope that's clear. It was a pretty powerful answer, you know, and
Yeah.
but it's real, you know, it's not like, okay, you can smell from this incense and pranam and go namaste to everybody, you're going to have a spiritual, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Mm.
What works is doing the inner work really in depth, not putting on costumes.
Yeah, and I understand it's
Hmm?
I understand, thank you. It's a very intense lifestyle also, it seems, that you had in your life.
Good.
Mm,
Life should be intense and at the same time full of joy.
mm. Mm.
Because it's intense, it doesn't mean you have to be unhappy. You do it with joy, with gratitude that you have the energy to do these things and to live in a deep way.
Mm.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up just a little bit.
Yeah, I was, I had a feeling of intense gratitude just before you began talking when I was in meditation, and and the realization that in the past few days,
Hannah, you have to speak up just a little.
oh, hold on. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
I had a feeling of intense.
Please also sit up, do the meditation, don't move, and
Just
now ask
getting
the question.
closer to the laptop.
Go ahead.
No, I had a feeling of intense gratitude when I just came out of my meditation, and the realization that in the past few weeks, few days, things have been happening. Things have been. I've been realizing things. Um, I'm trying to set up a business and things, and things have rolled into place quite remarkably. And then my vacuum cleaner blew up this morning. And it was like, oh.
Well, look,
No,
Heather,
but then I found one. One of my neighbours put one out.
listen, the only thing about Persian rugs, the
No.
best Persian rugs, okay, they always intentionally make it with a flaw. Only Allah is perfect. So your
Yeah,
vacuum cleaner blowing up is that flaw in the Persian rug. You know,
yeah. But I
you
found
got
a
to
new
see
one.
you have to see the rest of the rug, okay?
Yeah, but I can vacuum it now.
Well, you can get a buy another vacuum cleaner for God's sake.
Yeah, I have one now.
All right.
But yeah, that's all.
The only thing that's perfect is God, Allah, Jehovah, whatever you want to call him, or her. That's the only perfection. Everything else always has something, always goes wrong. There's always something. And then you have to recognize it and not get caught up. You look at all the things that are wonderfully happening and you don't get caught up in the one thing that's going wrong. I learned that a long time ago. Because I learned in business, when I was in business, great things used to happen and they always were followed by nonsense. Terrible things would happen also. And I used to watch people get really upset. And it didn't upset me. I would say, well, when good things happen, negative things are going to happen. And you have to be able to deal with both of them. That's the way energy manifests on the earth. You have positive, and then it always is something negative comes along. And if you're strong in this, you use both of them. There's no longer positive or negative. It's just the way energy manifests, you know? So you don't get upset and you don't walk around, la 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 and la la land when something good happens to you. It's all energy and it all's your teacher. And I always discovered when something good happened to me, it always followed by some negative thing, So, I mean, I remember once, this is a true story. I woke up, I didn't wake up, I got a phone call that I had lost a shipment when I was in business that I won't tell you the figure, but it was a lot of money, huge amount of money. And I lost it. And I had to teach a meditation class 5 minutes later. And I'm talking, a kind of money that most of you don't even know about. That's the kind of money that was lost in that shipment. And 5 minutes later, and I had this extraordinary meditation class because it forced me to go so deep inside to get above that. I mean, with that money, I was going to buy literally an ashram in the country that I was going to make from that shipment. And, it made me go up. It was an extraordinary class. And I realized, Stuart, your life has to change a bit because of what happened. So it's just what goes on, There's always something positive, something negative. It's just the way energy manifests on the earth. Something good happens, it's always followed by something negative. Something negative happens, it's followed by something good, always. And you remember that only Allah is perfect. Every great Persian rug hanging in all the museums in the world have but one flaw in them, because only Allah is perfect. Does anyone else have a question they would like to
I have another question.
ask? Yes.
Sometimes I find it a bit uncomfortable to sit in open eyes and be
With
seen.
what?
To sit in class like this and be seen so deeply. Sometimes I'm noticing stuff coming up from before I even can remember. It's
Good.
my childhood before I even was conscious, and it goes so deep, and I can feel you sometimes working on not me but what's behind me, sort of.
Good.
And it's a bit uncomfortable, and also sometimes uncomfortable
Look,
because
Skanda, don't worry about it. Nobody cares. Okay, you just work through it.
all right.
Nobody cares. It's just your insecurity, and you got to get through your insecurity. Don't worry about it.
Mm.
You have that stuff coming up. I'm just very grateful to see that burning up in you and you getting past that, because that's the stuff that's keeping you from doing amazing things with your life. So you got to get through it. And nobody cares. Who cares? I mean it. Nothing to be embarrassed about. As long as you don't spew it out and use it to get angry at people, you just work on it and burn it up in yourself. You get past it, you start doing amazing things in your life. Mean it.
Mm.
I mean, like where I used to live in New York City, you'd walk naked in the street and people would notice you, I really mean it. People don't care, unless you do something to trespass on their space. You understand? But if you're just working out your stuff inside, that's, it comes up and then you have to deal with it, work through it. And don't be ashamed of it, just work through it. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask?
Stuart, it's Jillian.
Yes, Julian. Hi.
I just wanted to say thank you for this beautiful meditation practice with you.
Julian, I'd like to thank you too for growing so much as you're growing in your life. You're doing a great service to me and to yourself and to God. So just keep doing it, dear. Just keep growing. You know, you're doing very well. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
Is God love?
Yes.
Thank you.
God is love. God is everything. You know, it's, you know, listen, I'm gonna have to end the class because I have an appointment somewhere. But one second, Ania, I'll be right out. God is love. God is everything. God is, you know, the good things, the bad things, the indifferent things, the things you like, the things you don't like. You know, it's like William Blake said, everything that lives is holy. I always say that, and I think it's one of the most profound things I ever read. You know, and the highest level of God's energy on the earth is love. It's love. That's the highest language of God on the earth. Okay, I don't know what time it is, but I have an appointment soon. So bless you all. There'll be a class on Sunday. I hope to see you all. If you know people that want to come, you know, people get in touch with me. They want to come to class. And there was some woman from Israel and they never show up. You know, so I just take their names off the list. And if people don't show up for weeks at a time without notifying me in some way, I also take their names off the list. This is too hard.
Stuart?
I just say there's going to be 60, 70 people in class, and I need people with real commitment that way, deep commitment.
Go get your butt out that door. Your daughter's waiting for you.
All right. Okay.
But Stuart,
Bless you all. I'll see you all
Thank you.
Sunday.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for your work. Thank you.
thank you.